Still took us a while. Okay, it's July 10th, 2017. I'll call to order the Arvada City Council meeting of that date. And we'll call upon Councilmember Nancy Ford.
Would you join me in a moment of reflection? And if you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kristen Rush, if you'll do the roll call.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Pfeiffer.
Here.
Councilmember Allard.
Here.
Councilmember Ford.
Here.
Councilmember Jones.
Here.
Councilmember Marriott.
Here.
Councilmember McGough.
Here.
We have the minutes of June 19th, 2017. Any changes or corrections? Yes, Nancy. If you'll turn on your
copy. But under CB 17-019, there wasn't a vote where Mayor Pro Tem Pfeiffer moved. That's CB 17-019 under A on page 3. Should there be a vote?
on which one now? On A?
Under the public hearing was closed, and then Mayor Pro Tem Pfeiffer moved that CB.
Yes, there is a vote missing. I'll get that corrected.
Okay.
Good catch.
Thank you for catching that. I'm glad you're paying attention. Any other changes? With that change, the minutes will be approved as presented. Any public comment? I've got Aaron Behrens. Till the 5-minute portion? That's fine. Anybody else wish to address City Council at this time? Seeing none, I'll close this portion of the public comment portion. We'll move on to new business. We have a few items on the consent agenda. The first is R17067, which is a resolution authorizing Arvada to join with other local governments as a participant in the indenture of trust titled the Colorado Statewide Investment Pool in order to pool funds for investment. Second one's a resolution authorizing an agreement between Arvada and Fairfield and Woods, a law firm for professional services related to the Land Development Code Reform Project in an amount not to exceed $150,000. Third item on the consent agenda is a resolution authorizing the Third Amendment to the City of Arvada Retirement Plan Trust. And the final one is a resolution accepting a sidewalk easement from Ms. Rizanti pertaining to the Salisbury Pedestrian Track Crossing Project. Mr. Marriott, do you have a motion?
I do. I move that consent items number R17-067 through 17-070 be approved.
Motions for approval of the consent agenda as I've presented. All votes are cast. That passes 7-0. Thank you. Next, we have a resolution, R17071, which is a resolution authorizing an IGA intergovernmental agreement for police recruit training between Lakewood and Arvada in an amount not to exceed $78,000. Mr. Devon.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this resolution will allow us to have 13 police officers complete the training required to be a peace officer standards standards and training board, certified in order to work as a police officer for the city of Arvada. Instead of having our own separate academy, this is something that we do through this IGA with the city of Lakewood and Jefferson County. We have 13 brand new recruits who I happened to see quite by accident as they were being given an orientation of our City Hall building just last week, and they look like an excellent group of people, but they need to go through this academy in order to become a certified police officer. So we're recommending the City Council's approval of this resolution.
Okay. Any questions or action? Mr. Marriott.
If there's no questions, I'd like to make a motion.
You may proceed.
I move that R17-071, a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement for police recruit training between the City of Lakewood and the City of Arvada in the amount not to exceed $78,000 be approved.
Motions for approval? All votes are cast. That passes 7-0. Very good. It's just barely 6:30, so I guess it's good that we started a little late. I'll open the public hearing on the Candelas Outline Development Plan Amendment 6, northeast corner of Aldante Court and State Highway 72. At the same time, we'll consider the Candelas filing for Amendment 1, Preliminary Development Plan, West 93rd Street and Candelas Parkway, and also the Candelas filing for Amendment 1, Preliminary Plat at West 93rd Street and Candelas Parkway. Mr. Devon.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council will have Director of Community Development, Rita McConnell, present this item.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. This proposal at Candelas will increase the number of single-family detached units by 62 and will also decrease the number of townhome units by 147. These changes are proposed to deal with the topographic and market constraints at the location. The intent for housing diversity is still met in the overall Candelas area. The neighborhood has not expressed any concerns related to this proposal. There are no modifications of any of the preliminary development standards. Staff recommends approval of this request as it complies with the comprehensive plan and the land development code. Planning Commission voted in favor of this request with a vote of 7-0. I have received the posting log and affidavit of mailing, and they are in order.
They'll be made part of the record.
Carol Ibanez, Senior Planner, and Sylvia Lopel, Transportation Planner, are both available for staff questions. The applicant, Ms. Bonnie Nijelik, is also available for a presentation.
Very good. Anyone who wishes to testify on this matter, if you'll raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in these proceedings will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Very good. You may proceed with your presentation. Good evening.
Bonnie Nijelik, Norris Design, 1101 Bannock Street, Denver. Thank you and good evening. Thank you, staff and City Council, for your time this evening and throughout the review process. We're glad to be here tonight to discuss the Candelas ODP Amendment 6, along with the preliminary plat and preliminary development plan for filing number 4, Amendment number 1. We have members of the development team here to answer any questions. Brian Daly and Craig Valdeisen with Terra Causa Capital, the master developers, myself and Jenna Biondolillo with Norris Design, and David Kuntz with Martin Martin. The green parcel shown on the screen skipping ahead. The parcels under consideration tonight are in Parcel 2, which is Zone PUD-R. These two areas are highlighted in green and show the location of the ODP amendments. The green parcels located on the left side of the screen are within Filing 4, which we are replatting for 342 units for an increase of 62 dwelling units compared to the existing ODP. We've included a PDP and preliminary plat for these parcels as well. The general layout is consistent with the approved plat, but the lot mix has changes in response to current market conditions, which we'll explain in a moment. These changes also resulted in updated street sections to better reflect the city's standard street sections, and we have updated the landscape plans based on these lot line and street section changes. The green parcel just to the right of this shows parcels 2U and 2B, which we are creating to create one overall ODP parcel of 150 units, which is a decrease of 147 units compared to the existing ODP. Between these two changes, we're proposing an overall decrease of 85 dwelling units. We also updated a number of ODP parcels so that their allowed unit counts match what was previously approved in each filing, which created an additional reduction of 3 units. Again, those are changes that are included in the ODPs, so parcel counts are consistent with the existing approved FDPs and final plats. No actual layout changes from those approved plans were proposed. Here we compare the existing ODP 5 with our proposed revisions in ODP 6. We are proposing an overall reduction in units in parcel 2 from 2038 to 1950. Which creates a density reduction in parcel 2 from 2.78 DUs per acre to 2.66 DUs per acre. The open space provided remains the same at 164 acres, The amount of parks provided remains the same at 70 acres. The school dedication also remains the same at 25 acres. With that, I'd like to introduce Brian Daly with Terra Causa Capital to go through the reasons why these revisions are necessary.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Brian Daly with Arvada Residential Partners and Terra Causa Capital, 10914 Remick Ridge Road. As Bonnie mentioned, when we planned Candelas, we started this process in 2009. And when we did the original ODP, Parcel 2 of the ODP, we contemplated over 2,200 residential units, and we anticipated a population of almost 6,000 people. All of the park dedications, all of the facility sizings, the school dedications were all based on that population. And so we've anticipated that in terms of those facilities from day one. And even though we're losing units, which we really don't like to do as a developer, I'd like to just spend a few moments, just a few minutes explaining our rationale. Of the two areas that are involved in the proposal, this is within our filing 2 area shown on the plan. You can see that there are some residential lots that cover most of this diagram. There's an existing roadway, which is Candelas Boulevard, that runs kind of east-west at the south of or toward the bottom of the picture. And the parcel that we're left with in between, we're showing topography on there. And the reason that we're showing it is because that's the biggest part of our problem. We have the existing road, which is Candelas Boulevard, drops approximately 150 feet from the west end of the picture to the east end of the picture. There's about 50 feet of vertical fall across the single-family attached site as we go north, backing up to existing single-family residential detached. And then on the east side, where the topography is slightly less, it drops about 30 feet across there. There are 3 access points that are highlighted on the diagram, and because of limitations on how steep you can make a street and the kind of products that we think we can fit in this kind of parcel, we are not going to be able to achieve the density that we had originally zoned, which was a total of 297 units. We've had 4 builders look at this particular property. All 4 of them have proposed a low-density townhome product or paired home product, which we think would be a good product for this area, backing up to the residential single-family detached homes. But they're smaller profile buildings that would lend themselves to the topography in this area. So after working with a number of different builders and trying to come up with a plan that maintains the single-family attached product theme that we want in this area, we think that ultimately we're going to have somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 units, and that's why we're proposing this reduction. It's purely because of topographical constraints. With regard to filing 4, which was previously platted, we have a slightly bigger area that we're proposing some adjustments. If you look at this diagram, you can see that the street configuration for these lots, we're showing a number of different lot sizes because we have a variety of product types that are proposed within this sub-community at Candelas. There's also a large green belt area there, which we're maintaining. That's where Big Dry Creek runs through the property, and it's a large drainage area that is kind of fixed. And in fact, we actually invested a few $1 million this year completing those drainage improvements so that the school could open this fall, because those improvements needed to be in place. So we've actually already graded this site, but we held off on doing the complete development in favor of trying to make some lot size adjustments in here. If you look toward the top portion of the diagram, we have some larger lots that are 80-foot wide and 95-foot wide lots. When we originally planned Candelas, we anticipated that this would be a custom, semi-custom area. It does sit fairly high up on the hill, and it's fairly prominent, and it overlooks the open space below on Big Dry Creek. What's also on this diagram towards the bottom is since we've had about 5 years of sales experience now at Candelas, we sold our first homes beginning in 2012. We've had roughly 695 sales to date. One of the things I've documented here is the home sales, home closings by lot size, so that you can get an idea of exactly what we're seeing in terms of market share by product type. As we look at the 80 and 95 foot wide lots, we can see that those account for only about 6% of the total sales at Candelas. We do have an existing custom, semi-custom area at Candelas. It's located in Filing 1, where we first started the project towards the east end of the community. And on this particular graphic, that area is shown with lots highlighted in blue and in green. The blue represents lots that have been sold. We've had 2 different custom, semi-custom builders that have built and sold homes at Candelas. Both of those builders actually fell out of contract and walked away from some significant deposits. They did so because they had a hard time making these price points work. Essentially, they're selling product in the 700s on up to, I think the most expensive is around $1.4 million price point, and it's a pretty thin market for that price point. So although both builders walked, we're committed to the integrity of that neighborhood and making sure that we maintain a custom, semi-custom concept there with the architecture that was intended, but we know it's going to be slower going than what we first thought. And so this is part of the reason we think it makes no sense to do the same kind of lot sizes in Filing 4, which is why we're proposing to recalibrate those. The other thing that comes into play at Candelas from 2012 to 2017, we've had a very good market. It's been a very strong market, but we've seen substantial price increases taking place over the last few years. In 2012, our average home sale closing price was $418,000. Compare that with this year in 2017, we're at $581,000 thus far as an average closing price. That's a significant increase over a 5-year period. We're concerned about affordability and trying to be able to maintain some of the momentum that we've achieved at Candelas, and we're concerned about prices, frankly, just getting out of reach of people. As we look at Filing 4, where we're proposing the replat, this diagram has two sets of boxes, essentially. The upper box shows the existing plat, where we've taken the lot sizes by lot width, and we've essentially analyzed what those lot sizes would yield in terms of product type and price point. In our business, essentially the bigger the lot, the more expensive the lot is. It takes more money to build the roads, takes more acreage and so forth. So there's a direct correlation there between lot size and lot cost. And in our business, we tend to see that new home sales, often the lot price tends to be around 20% of the total sales price of the home. So what I've done here is I've interpolated what these lot sizes would yield in terms of price point, and by the time you add options, which typically run 10 to 15% on a home, under the existing plat recap, we've got an average price point that we think is going to be around $889,000. Under the proposed replat, what we've done is we've recalibrated those lot sizes. We've still maintained a variety of lot sizes. The 2 sets of boxes, I guess, that are shaded in blue show what was the semi-custom neighborhood and how we've proposed to do that with 75 foot wide and 65 foot wide lots. By doing this recalibration, essentially we're able to bring this price point, this average price point, down to just under $700,000. We're trying to make this an attainable price point, and we're defining that as almost a $700,000 home. And even though we've... Still cheaper than Boulder. This is true, and a good value at that. So essentially, this is about a $190,000 average price point, the reduction that we're trying to achieve here. But I want you to also keep in mind what we just said about this year's closing price. Our average closing price at Candelas thus far this year is $581,000. So this is still $118,000 higher than what the average price point is at Candelas. So I wanted you to have that sense of where we are in the overall neighborhood. On this particular graphic, we have two columns of sets of pictures of houses. What does this look like? Essentially, the homes that you see on the left are pictures of product that are taken from our existing custom and semi-custom neighborhood within Candelas Filing 1. They're great homes. They have 360-degree architecture. There's lots of variety in those. But on the right, what you see is also product that we're also offering at Candelas on an existing 75-foot wide lot. This is a product that's being built by Tri-Point. It has very similar architectural considerations and wraparounds. And even though these are significantly different price points, we think that by making the shift to the 75-foot wide lot product, we're maintaining the kind of character that we've represented we would have within Candelas. Lastly, I just also want to say we mentioned that we've programmed our community for all of the population that we expect, and even though we're going to see a slight reduction, we've also done the math on what this looks like to the Metro District, who maintains the pools and the amenities that we have, and it's actually a slightly more favorable outcome because we wind up having slightly less users but slightly higher AV. We've also looked at this in terms of city taxation, and my partner Craig Veldhuizen here has done an analysis of what that looks like to the city tax side. By making the proposed adjustment in Filing 4, we think that actually is a favorable outcome to the city as well. Something to the tune of $1 million over a 10-year period, and that's just tax revenue. That's not counting cash flow and things like tap fee revenues and other considerations that come into play. And that pretty much summarizes our presentation. In conclusion, we just ask for your consideration and your approval of our proposed amendment and our proposed preliminary replat for Candelas. If you have any questions, we're available for those, and thank you.
Very good. Yeah.
One comment?
You bet.
I'm Craig Veldhuizen. I'm Brian's partner with Arvada Residential Partners and Terra Casa Capital, 12437 Daniels Gate Drive in Castle Pines. All I want to point out is just a clarification on Brian's sales figures. The only thing I wanted to say was his 695, here it is, 695 units is a dated number. I believe that was probably around February or March. And I just wanted to clarify that we now have about 745 sales out there. So we're doing well this year.
And where it says started selling in 2016, that's actually 2012, right?
That's, I think, referring just to the 45-foot wide lot
that's when
product.
you started selling that
Correct.
product. Okay.
But of that additional 50 lots that have been sold this year, we've sold 3 that are in that semi-custom 80-foot to 95-foot or higher size.
Okay.
That's all I wanted to make a point about. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any member of the public that would like to address City Council on this issue? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment portion, open it up for City Council questions or action. Mr. McGough.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My questions at the start are relate to the staff report, and I just want to make sure that I'm clear as I read through here. First of all, if I'm reading this correctly and doing I think we're going from 293 to up to 355 single-family residences and reducing then the number of attached from 297 to 150. Okay, now page 6 of the staff report uses some other numbers, and it's probably just my lack of understanding them, but let me see, make sure I'm not on the right page, that's why I can't find it. Just a second here. Just below the illustration on page 6 of the staff report, it talks about the proposed change increases the total number from 507 to 573 lots. And I'm wondering, those numbers don't match up with other things we have, and I'm wondering if that's just my misunderstanding of something. Also, while you're thinking about that, there's something similar on page 8. The last paragraph on page 8 has to do with parks and open space, and it talks there based on the total number of, fourth line down, based on the total number of 342 dwelling units, the parkland dedication is 9.6 acres, but my focus is on the 342 dwelling units. I'm wondering if the confusion is mine or if it's shared.
I can answer that. This was originally platted as Candelas Filing 4, and so the first number that you got, which was 507, was a total for Filing 4, which included the semi-custom homes total. So when they are replatting to add, reducing the semi-custom homes to these new sizes, they're upping it by 573 total for Candelas Filing 4. So this is a kind of confusing replatting of these lots, because basically what they're doing is they had a plat approved with Filing 4, which had these numbers that included what they're replatting and creating more lots. So that is the overall total for Filing 4, including what has already been approved earlier, and they have started their construction. So
I'm wondering,
does that make sense?
Well, I'm not quite clear yet. I don't see something that matches either the 507, I'm looking at the page 6 notation. I don't see anything that matches the 507 or the 573, and my addition and subtraction doesn't get me to those numbers. So
62.
I'm just wondering. But I guess the bottom line is that there's not confusion that what we're going from 293 to 355, and we're going from 297 down to 150 on the attached units.
Right.
So that's the numbers I ought to be guided by.
Yes.
And that's the most important ones.
Yes.
Okay. I'll just leave it there. I do have one other question, if I could, and this is for Brian on your report. See if I can find it again here. On page, and I guess it would be a shared question. It talked about there's going to be an ongoing maintenance burden to be maintained by the Metro District and the City of Arvada, and it's facilities, ongoing maintenance burden on facilities to be maintained by the Metro District and the City of Arvada. Does the city have facilities that will be in a shared maintenance arrangement? Or are we just talking parks?
The parks.
Okay, because we do have the word facilities in there, and that confused me.
I was really referring to parks. We have kind of a unique situation at Candelas in that the Metro District actually maintains the parks during the increment period until the end of the increment period on the urban renewal per IGA. So the district will have maintenance of all the city parks for a period of time. Eventually it will transfer over to the city, however.
Okay, so we are talking about the facilities, so the structures within the parks when we use the term
Correct.
facilities.
Playgrounds and so forth.
Okay. I'm all set. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Jones?
If there are no other questions, I'll make a motion.
I'm not seeing any other questions.
So just for housekeeping, do I make each motion separately?
Separately, yes.
Okay. I move that Candela's Outline Development Plan Amendment 6, northeast corner of,
El Diente.
how do you say it?
El Diente.
El Diente, thank you, Court, and State Highway 72 be approved. This motion is based on the findings of fact adopted by the Planning Commission.
Motions for approval? All votes are cast. That passes 7-0. Thank you.
Okay, and I move that Candela's filing 4, Amendment 1, Preliminary Development Plan, West 93rd Avenue and Candela's Parkway, be approved and subject to the attached updated conditions of approval. And this motion is based on the findings of fact adopted by the Planning Commission.
Motions for approval. Mr. Jones, do you want to vote on your motion? All votes are cast. That passes 7-0.
And finally, I move that Candela's filing for Amendment 1, Preliminary Plat, West 93rd Avenue and Candela's Parkway, be approved, subject to the attached updated conditions of approval. This motion is based on the findings of fact adopted by the Planning Commission.
Preliminary plat motion, all votes cast. That passes 7-0 as well. Thank you. That concludes our public hearing for tonight. We will now go to public comment, and I'll call Aaron back up to the podium.
Hello.
Good evening.
My name's Erin Behrens. I've been living in Arvada for 7 years, and I'm a Colorado native. Before I speak, I just wanted to warn anyone watching that this is not appropriate for kids. So I am also the administrator for the Arvada Moms Facebook group with over 1,000 members. I am a contributor to one of the largest political Facebook pages in Colorado, and I am on the Jefferson County Republican Party Communications Committee. And there is a problem in our city that I think you need to be aware of. Don't really know how to say this, but there is a sexual fetish group that is using Old Town Arvada as their meeting place. The group is called Arvada Tales, and according to their website, they are a group of furries, quote. A Google search for furries will yield headlines like, "Furries, Sexual Fetishes, What You Need to Know." This group has held 16 events since April last year. They had 78 attend their June 11th meeting, and over 60 people attend yesterday. As we can see from their publicly posted photos and videos, they meet in Old Town Arvada in their fetish costumes and go to Old Town Square and play in the fountains alongside children. They parade in Old Town streets with a megaphone. They play on the McAvoy playground equipment alongside children, and they gather at McAvoy Pavilion and play music. If you don't know about furries, they appear harmless. They may even appear like they're for children because they are animal costumes. But for people who know what this is a horrifying sight. They have also been seen simulating animal sexual behavior like petting and nibbling each other, which I saw personally yesterday at their event. Additionally, they are planning a carnival at McAvoy Park next month with over 100 attending or interested in attending. According to their event page, quote, "This is going to consist of a ghetto dealer's den and even a dance show and planned fursuit games and a big parade around the old town," unquote. This behavior is not protected by the First Amendment. We have city laws that prohibit obscene signage and prohibit displaying obscene materials. I would argue that their fetish suits constitute obscene materials. This group is also breaking Arvada restrictions on special events. A special event is defined in the Land Development Code as any organized event with over 100 people, or which may increase the risk of damage to property, injury to persons, disturbances or nuisances, unsafe travel, significant additional public services or demands, or other significant adverse effects upon public health, safety, and welfare. And I also believe that the city has grounds for denying them a special event permit in the City Code Section 10-96. I have additional details and pictures if you would like them.
Well, thank you for your information. I'm sure our city manager will be back in contact with you, and we'll talk with our city attorney in terms of what we can and can't do. I thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Okay, thank you.
Again, if you've got materials you want to give to the city clerk for sharing with the rest of council, that's fine. Anyone else wish to address city council during the public comment portion? Seeing none, I'll close that and open it up for discussion by council of any reports that they may have. Doesn't look like any, but I do know that our committee members met with representatives from the Apex District regarding issues with the Myers Pool. And this is going to be an important issue moving forward as I look at Mr. Allard, who's been monitoring this for literally decades. And the discussion at this point is that we're going to have discussions not only with Apex, but also with Jeffco Schools regarding where this needs to fit in terms of priorities for each of the three entities. It's no secret that Myers Pool is at the end of its useful life, and it's an issue that needs to be dealt with. At some point, we have a justice of the Colorado Supreme Court who has lobbied me long and hard on this issue because his kids went through the Myers Pool experience, and they want to make sure that it's still there for years to come for other kiddos. So there's going to be a lot of discussions on this, and certainly the city will be part of those discussions. Mr. McGough?
Yes, as one member of that coordinating committee, I would just add one thing. When the staff will be researching and talking with the other two entities, the Apex Recreation District and the school district, but what we really will seek at the outset is in whatever form it comes, it's going to be a commitment to ensure that this is a priority. At this point, all three of the entities can say, yes, we ought to do something, but we will be asked by staff sometime in the near future to make a definite commitment in one way or another to say, yes, this is a problem in which we have ownership and which we will commit resources. And so we're not at that point yet, but we will be relatively soon.
Very good. Okay, reports from city manager.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Next week, of course, is another business meeting, but we will have a workshop for you on July the 24th. We'll review the hospitality master plan, and we will give you our updated 10-year financial plans for all of our major funds as well on July the 24th. So that's what's happening at the next scheduled workshop.
I just whispered to Mr. Pfeiffer that he'll be running the July 24th workshop. So he's got a little bit of advance warning.
Oh, and I was just reminded that I wanted to ask the City Council for a motion to cancel the September 11th, 2017 workshop.
Mr. Pfeiffer.
Go ahead and make the motion to cancel the September 11th workshop.
Motions to cancel that workshop. All votes are cast. Let's see which way Mr. Allard votes. He voted in favor of it. Passed 7-0. Thank you. Mr. Daly, do you have anything for us tonight? Didn't think so. We stand adjourned.